From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we are reunited. I had to take last week off to be doing some business and some family stuff in Minnesota, so thank you both for doing the big show. I feel so guilty that I haven't had a chance to actually listen to the shows that you guys did without me. But I read the YouTube comments, and they sounded great.
Hey, there was one time a couple years ago, Joseph, I did something. You said, "I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to listen to your show." It's like, I wouldn't expect you to listen to anything I do. We're too busy doing things.
Exactly.
We're all doing things.
Yeah, sometimes Sarah's like, it sounded really interesting. I wanted to listen to that episode of Force Center. It's like, I will just recap for you.
Which makes me more appreciative of the people who do enjoy spending time with us, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all for spending time with us. We want to let you know, as always, that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles. It's got to be so much more since we first started reading that like 6 years ago. Over 1 million copies to choose. I don't know. Titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are continuing to recommend Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp. It's an earlier novel in this modern era, but it's a great one for spooky Halloween time. So if you want to download Lords of the Sith or any other audiobook, you can go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for a free audio book. All right, that's Audible. Ken, do you want to talk about our asks?
I do like talking about asks, and we are on patreon.com/ForceCenter. We have a goal of getting up to 415 paid supporters, currently around 403. We really, as we said, appreciate the support. This really helps keep the show going. It's not just a charity pledge drive on a PBS. This is us. This is us. It really helps. And if you'd like to consider supporting, then you get into our Discord. You get a call link when we take calls on our live shows. All those kind of things are through our Patreon page at patreon.com/ForceCenter. And as we have said before, if we get to 415, we are going to do a private live stream. As we were saying, a private dancer like a Tina Turner song. Private live stream for all of you on Patreon. And also, we'd like to remind you that we are on Blue Sky and Threads. We still do have an active profile over on x.com, but we're not participating in the space over there right now. So Blue Sky and Threads, good place to find us. So that's another ask as well. So that's our asks.
Yeah, and lots of people have been finding us on Blue Sky and Threads. So thank you all. We will continue to be active there. Which, speaking of being active, we move on to life adventures. Jennifer, what was your sort of life adventure this week, and did Star Wars find its way in any way?
Not really. I did watch, I wanted something cozy to watch and I wanted to get my kids involved. So I put on Over the Garden Wall, which I had never seen before. Have you guys heard of this? I've been seeing a lot of people online talking about it. I think it's maybe a slightly younger generation than us. Anyways, it was a show on Cartoon Network, one season, and it's fantastic. A little spooky, perfect for fall. It's funny. And I was like, why can't Star Wars do this? Because my kids loved it. It's about two brothers who get lost in the woods, and adventures and mischief ensues. It's just really, really well done. But yeah, I enjoyed that. Went out in the Arts District. Just living life, man. Living life off the gram. That's what I've been doing.
Yep.
Off the gram, meaning not posting on Instagram? Is that?
Yeah. I literally was like, told my daughter, can you take a picture of me in my outfit? Because I was wearing a Darth Vader sweater. I'm like, let's capture this moment. And then my 5-year-old came and saw me posing for a picture and wanted to take a picture with me. And I was like, all right, well, I can't post this picture now because I'm not posting my kids online.
Yes.
But it was a sweet moment.
That's a sweet moment. And I totally understand people being very careful with their children, but it does kind of amuse me when I see like an Instagram picture of somebody being like this awesome pose and their child's face is just all smeared out.
Exactly.
I understand it's to protect the child, but it looks like, who wants to see this kid? Look at my outfit.
I know. I was like, maybe I should just like put trooper helmets on my kids. That way I mean, I'm serious, like, because I just have so many fun photos of us, and
Yeah,
It'll work.
just hello Greedo the kids. Just put
Yeah.
the helmet over
oh,
it.
that's right, Hello Greedo.
Yeah.
Oh man, is he
Yeah.
still going?
He's going.
Oh.
Good
He's a
for him.
firefighter now. Yeah, he's a firefighter
Oh,
paramedic
cool.
now. So he
And he
doesn't
wears
do a
the
ton of
helmet,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, on the job. Yeah, on the job.
The job.
On the job.
Yeah.
Anywho.
So, Ken, how about you? Are you living off the gram, on the thread? How are you
No,
living?
I'm trying to post like every once in a while a go with me here, a text-based post on Threads. No pictures, no videos, just something I can type out. I'm actually off the gram. I'm having a weird longer conversation on maybe another center episode of just like I don't have anything I want to say or show to the world. And I'm just like I feel I'm like standing at the train station while every career I wanted zips past me because I don't want to turn every moment into a brand opportunity. And it's I'm not saying this and like I'm proud of it. I'm just like I don't know what to do anymore. And I was gone this weekend. It was a memorial. My friend Josh McCouga lost his brother to cancer recently, so we went up. Mark Ellis and I drove up to San Francisco to the San Francisco area. And it was a beautiful weekend, emotional weekend. Great family, a lot of loving folks. They're just the McCouga and all family is just. You got like 70-year-olds out drinking everyone. Like they don't stop. And it was just, but didn't take a lot of photos, and you wouldn't add a memorial, but like we were doing things and smiles and hugs and kisses and just there was a lot of love at the event. And I was like, I didn't document any of it because I didn't want to share it, and which is okay. But it was just, it was. I had a lot of time in a car driving down and up and down California to think about that. So, that was actually on my mind. But it was a good weekend. I did have some Star Wars in the early part of the weekend. I'm trying to sell some of my Star Wars figures, and I finally went back. I'd cataloged my Funko Pops a while ago, but I finally went back to my storage shed and cataloged my figures. Mostly 6-inch Black Series, but I have beyond that Power of the Force, some stuff we've talked about on this channel a lot. And I just cataloged it. Not necessarily going to sell it all, but just wanted to see what I had. And I forgot. And God, the memories. And these are memories of like 2016 of going to Walgreens and trying to find that exclusive General Veers. Like, and so you're holding each figure and you're like, this is the power of the figures. This is the power of the love of Star Wars, where you're literally replaying, the moment the moment this Cassian Andor was on the rack, how cool that was. And you're kind of reliving all that. And I have a Darth Maul from the early line, like 2011-12 range, and that was one of the figures I bought to kind of be like, Star Wars isn't gone yet, and this is before the sale. It was just like that kind of range, and so a lot of memories attached to it. Also have the Princess Leia Star Wars Unleashed figure.
Oh wow!
Which reminds me of another time in the early 2000s.
This is the bikini one, right?
This is, if anyone wants a really sexy figure, I'm selling it because it's priced to go on eBay for a lot. So it was I just looked at that and went, yeah, that was a different time.
Different time.
But anyways, that's all my adventures.
Yeah, no, this is a very, very relatable adventures. I am trying to stay active on social media because I do value the community of it. But I really relate to you is sometimes like a really fun thing happens and I truly want to share it, or something happens in the news and I truly do have like a take or a joke. And then you have those times just like, the only thing I have to say is just like, I exist. I eat soup.
Yeah.
And I know that's the way that a lot of people frankly almost prefer that than jokes these days. But I still feel like if I'm going to say something, it needs to be worth saying. And there's some days that I gotta find something to say. Anyway. So I'm tied to the gram.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying some stuff on Threads, but like it makes me, some of the stuff makes me angry because it's just like, hey, has anyone seen The Godfather? What is this? Is this a movie? Should I watch it? I'm like, you engagement farming jerk. It just drives me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we could do another center about this. I truly, legitimately enjoy Blue Sky because it is not messing with the algorithm. It is just the people you follow in the order that they post things. There are some jokes. It's tending a little bit more towards, strong personal opinions, but it feels like this is what I want. It's community. It's what's on people's minds. And I go over to Threads and I understand the attraction because there are more people on it. But yeah, I mean, you have to click the extra thing to actually get to people you're following. And then it just shows you like the one joke Ken made 8 days ago.
Yeah.
It's a great joke, but it shows it to me every time.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the engagement farming that's growing of just like, are dogs bad actually? Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
It's driving me insane. It's
Yeah.
driving me insane.
Yeah. Or talking about like a celebrity, but not mentioning the celebrity's name or the headline being like, I can't believe she did that. Why would she commit such a crime? And then everyone's in the comments, wait, who are you talking about?
Who are
You're
you
talking
talking
about
about?
Taylor? Like, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
or there'll
Yeah,
be
and then
those
I'm-
things that like, do you know this about Harrison Ford? Follow this thread. And then like the
Yeah.
next thing down will be he played Han Solo. And like, yeah, I did. We all
Yep.
knew that about Harrison Ford.
And I'm 42 comments deep going, well, now I got to find out what she did and who she is, because that's how it works. It works. And that's what these people,
Terrible.
yeah, it just,
Yeah. Well, welcome to Life
Anyways.
Adventures and venting about social media.
Mm.
Anyway, my most fun Star Wars adventure this week, I did already post on social media. I was in Minneapolis last week to work on this film I'm trying to get off the ground and spend a little bit of quality time with family. My dad, as I've posted a couple times, has this great 1950 Chevrolet panel truck that he's had. I think he had it before I was born. But he's got it up and running. And he really likes it when I drive it, but it's a beast to drive. It's got like an old stick shift transmission, and it is like that kind of car, like, if you're younger and you're watching the movies when they're always going back and forth with their hands on the steering wheel, and you're like, why? Like, because you used to have to keep a car
Oh.
going straight down the road.
Oh my gosh.
So there's this lovely little parkway that runs through Minneapolis, and there's a stretch of it that's just dead straight. So my dad was like, that toy store you like is up the parkway, and there are like 8 blocks of straight road where you can't mess up too bad in the truck.
yeah. Nice.
So why don't we take the truck to the toy store? And I've been trying to be good. I haven't bought that many toys, but like my dad took me to the toy store in his truck, so I had to get one. And they had an action figure of one of the 2 percussion artists in Max Rebo's band in the special editions, the dudes who are just hitting large gongs.
Yep.
So I got an action figure of Oompa Stay, and
That's right.
comes with a big drum gong thing. He just squat. His drum looks like it's a like field reporter microphone. A good ridiculous action figure. But as you're saying, Ken, the action figures are about the memories as much as anything else, and that's always going to be the action figure I got on this trip.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
That's neat.
I had one bad Star Wars adventure that I wanted to vent about. When I was flying there was a really chatty flight attendant. You know how some flight attendants are just like, let's get through this. And they're like, hi, don't put your bag there. And then there are others who want to make a show of it. There's a real loud guy who wanted to talk to everybody, make jokes. And a woman got on with a Star Wars tattoo. And he's like, that Star Wars tattoo is so great. That's not from the new ones, right? They're terrible. Aren't they bad? They're so bad. And he was just like yelling to the whole plane about how bad the sequels were. I'm like, why?
I'd like to go fly Spirit Airlines now. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to get off.
Put that on Threads where it belongs, not on this plane.
Yeah. Real life engagement farming.
Yep, it really was. It really was. Like, I'm not going to listen to your thread, sir. Anyway, good Star Wars adventures and rough ones. We are going to move on then to the news. There's some stuff going on in Star Wars. There was a surprise drop of an Audible that none of the 3 of us have had time to listen to, so we're not going to talk about it. But one thing I think that we're all excited about in different ways is the possibility of this announced Rey New Jedi Order film. And there was a very short but very interesting article with Daisy Ridley about this. After winning the new Hollywood Award at the Deauville Film Festival, the French magazine Premiere interviewed Daisy Ridley about her return to Star Wars. And like I said, it's a relatively short interview, and there isn't any huge breaking news. But the more human perspective from Daisy Ridley is really interesting, I think. And I translated it from French to English, so hopefully it is correct. But we're just, it's short enough. We're going to read chunks of the interview, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the ideas in them. So here is the first chunk of the interview. Interviewer said, your return to Star Wars will be very different from your arrival. By the time Episode 7 came out, the franchise had been dormant in theaters for decades, while New Jedi Order will arrive in a world where Star Wars is absolutely everywhere. And Daisy Ridley says, My thinking on the subject is very simple. If I didn't think the story was worth telling, I wouldn't have come back. The interviewer says, but you had the choice to refuse? Daisy Ridley says, yes, of course. And the interviewer pushes it even farther and says, there's no contract that would force you to come back. And Daisy Ridley responds, nope. I was simply asked if I wanted to do it based on an idea without the script being written yet. But if I hadn't been convinced by the concept, the film wouldn't have seen the light of day. I took the time to think about it for a day, and I said to myself that I had a great time on these films. This new adventure seemed fun to me. Why say no? Also, there was a strange coincidence. 2 people told me in the same week that they would love to know what Ray was doing now. I had no idea that there was interest. People really like Ray. I think that this new film will be exciting and will advance the franchise in an interesting way. So that's the first chunk of the interview, where the interviewer forms a bond with Daisy Ridley by assuming that she is being forced contractually to play Ray. So, Ken, how do you feel about Daisy Ridley's directness in general? That she just really starts the interview with, hey, it's not complicated, tortured decision. Yeah. The idea was pitched. I like the idea. I'm going for it.
I really like that directness. I think it's one thing I've liked about her is she's gotten older, more confident in this business. I mean, we're going to talk about her journey here, but yeah, we always make the reference here of, she gets cast in Force Awakens because she has one headshot. That's the only headshot that went around the press. Different time, and the journey is a lot different now. And I think she's learned. I think she's very, like I said, confident, at least publicly here. I'm sure we all have our doubts, but in our own lives. But she's very confident who she is now. And understands the importance of it. And I hadn't really thought of the contract thing. Maybe it's because I spend a lot of time working and writing and debunking conspiracy theories in my day job right now. That's important to debunk. Whether or not people will believe it or not is one thing. She probably have a 3-film contract. That's normal. But there probably is some people like, oh, they're forcing her. She doesn't want to come back. That could be a talking point for her to be like, no, absolutely not. I can show you the deal points memo. Like, no, I made my own decision to come back. And that has great value to me. I didn't doubt that. There was no thought in my head that she was, Kathleen Kennedy met with her and was like, I got a proposal you can't refuse. Like, that didn't happen. But it's good to hear it. And Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Daisy Ridley were in there. They were in the center of that storm, and they've all been very clear about whether they do or do not want to come back. And so, if any one of them were to come back, and this includes Daisy now, I believe it's for good reasons for them, at least from their perspective, creatively. For even Oscar Isaac to return to the Disney family with Moon Knight, whether people like the series or not, like that was big. That meant he had some thoughts on Disney and Star Wars and big things, and for him to like, yeah, this is what I want to do. That means a lot when you're following these artists. So I think it means a lot for Daisy, and I like her directness about it.
Yeah, no, I really like you pointing out the importance of that contract thing, because I was kind of, finding it funny, because it almost feels more of like an old school talking point to me of like, you got you roped in the sequels, you can't get out of it. But you're right, that it could be a talking point now. I particularly like that sentence. If I hadn't wanted to do it, it wouldn't have seen the light of day. If I hadn't been convinced by the concept, the film wouldn't have seen the light of day. That to me isn't like, we're putting together, this reboot. We can have Ray or not. Do you want in? It speaks to more of it's a partnership. This film can't happen without you. Do you like the idea? Do you want in? That's not a young actor being cast in a film that's happening without her or not. That's an adult agreeing to a partnership. And that's really cool. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it makes me wonder if she has any sort of producing credits on it.
Oh yeah,
right. I don't know. That's a nice little chunk of money. First of all, I think it's really funny because European press tends to be very blunt and direct, and maybe some of this is like lost in translation. But that kind of cracked me up. It also made me realize I've been seeing a lot online, especially like around the discussion of The Acolyte, where people were like, they had to use the word canceled because they were under contract. And I'm like, you guys think you don't know how contracts work. It's like, just because you do a Star Wars show or 3 Star Wars films does not mean you're under contract for life. Like that's not unless maybe there is some sort of deal with the devil that you sign. But like normally if you're going to be put on hold or pinned, it's because the project is like actively in development. They are actively casting it. So I think that that's important that she kind of spelled that out. Like, yeah, I did those 3 films, and you know, if I wanted to come back, I would come back, and I'm coming back because I love the story. It's not anything like, you know, contractual or money wise, although who can say no to that, right? If it's a good story, why wouldn't she want to participate and work as an actor? That's what actors do. Yeah, I also, one last thought. I also think it kind of speaks to the state of the industry. Back in the day, you would oftentimes get actors that would say, I'm not going to do this project. Like there was kind of a snobbiness, like I'm not going to do commercials. I'm not going to do TV. Meanwhile, I just saw Michael Cera in an Uber Eats commercial as an actor, not as Michael Cera for Uber Eats, right? Like we're in a different time where people are moving in all sorts of areas of the entertainment business. So if it's a good role, why is she not going to take it? Right? It's a different time.
Yeah, I think that's so true, and I think like the you know they're actors that like you look at their credits and they aren't working much, but then you go to their Instagram and they're like, "But I am the spokesperson for this coffee," and like all work and people are working, and it is not as rigid as it used to be. And I think from Daisy Ridley's perspective, she's done lots of different things, and I kind of like the why not attitude of there used to be this tortured like, but will I be typecast forever? And she's like, I was Ray. It made me, you know, famous. I have done a bunch of other things. I have faith that I can continue to do other things. I like this one idea, so I'll do it. And it isn't this tortured, fear-based, what will the future bring kind of thing. Just I like the idea. I also just like that she's been very clear about, hey, I haven't seen the script. I'm supposed to see the script here. Script. And I like that she's just like, yeah, that's you don't always have the script. I like the idea. The core idea is there, and I have enough faith in this, you know, relationship with Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, to go for it based on the idea. So I think that's great. So I love this. Her talking about 2 different people asking her about a Ray the same week that she had the lunch and had to make this decision. I agree that a lot of people do like Ray. I am aware also, as we'll talk about later, that some people don't. But I thought it was a good opportunity for us to sort of touch base, getting some years on now with the sequel of why we personally like Ray. What is compelling about her character and journey and making us want to see another step in her journey. Jennifer, what is compelling to you about Ray? Why do you like her?
I love her scrappiness. I love that she is stubborn in the best way. I like that she's a loner, and she's survived on her own. But at the same time, she really longs for belonging to her family. And she eventually finds, you know, the found family in the community in Finn and Poe and Leia. So yeah, there's a lot to relate to her. And she's a hero that I felt like we hadn't really seen before. Certainly and I don't want to say in a Star Wars, obviously Leia is beloved hero and has meant so much to me. But there was something very modern. I don't know how to describe it. And I really wish that my kids were just slightly older when The Force Awakens came out. I think that they would have fallen. I mean, they love her, but they would have fallen in love with her journey and really identified her. She feels like a modern, quote unquote, modern girl. And she's strong. She's athletic. She's tough. She's also vulnerable. She is a 3-dimensional character, which God, we really needed that so much in cinema, you know?
Yeah. No, I really agree with that. I think of my friend Laser when he was part of the band with his sister, the Double Clicks, wrote a song called "Sensitive Badass" because the Double Clicks were very successful. They were very smart and savvy, and you know, online could present themselves as not taking any BS. And so there was this think sometimes desire, I don't want to speak for Laser, but I think this is how I, interpreted the song. Is like there's a desire to put him in a box of either you're a badass who can handle anything and fight back against anything, or you're a sensitive, wounded artist, having a hard time getting up from the couch and longing. And I just think that the song was just a great representation of like, we can be both. We are all often both. And I think that is so what I love about Rey, of that multifaceted character that she is. Extremely strong, capable, can take care of herself, shaped by this formative experience of having to grow up alone and hard on Jakku. But she also is defined throughout the films of wanting family, connection, belonging to something larger than herself. And that desire for connection isn't a denial of her independence, of her scrappiness. It's both things are true. I can absolutely take care of myself, but also I would like to have family and connection. And I think it's not only what makes the character so compelling, I think it is for me what really makes the sequel trilogy work and sing, is that journey that she goes on to discover she does not have to be entirely alone, from the shock that Finn came to rescue her or help her on Starkiller Base, all the way through her Jedi desire in Rise of Skywalker is to be able to commune with the Jedi of the past. And in that moment in Rise of Skywalker, communing with the Jedi of the past, they're basically just like, you got that. And then she stands up and does it. And in that is her character of like, I want that connection. I need that connection. Like all of us do. We need other people around us to say, you can do it. But then it is your strength, your power, your independence when you choose to take the action. And that is, incredibly compelling about Rey. And then Daisy Ridley, like Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, just made a charm too. And just like every little choice is charming and engaging. Ken, what are your thoughts on why Rey is compelling to you?
Charming and engaging is a great thing to describe the first part of the journey. I go to three moments in three films and why I love the character of Rey. Jakku, I always say it's one of the best intros of a character in one of these fantasy, high fantasy type of series where you got to spend this time with her where she was immediately charming, endearing, but you felt for her, you got it. But you also, the isolation was something she was comfortable with, but something she wanted to move beyond. And just her sitting there having a snack outside of a fallen AT-AT with the yellow Tirfon Aces helmet on is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars because we've all been there. Hers was the start of a mythical journey, but who didn't ride their bike in the 80s making X-Wing sounds or TIE Fighter sounds or speeder bike sounds? Jen and I have learned that we both climbed trees and used them as speeders. And so that pulled me in from that. And I always said I was very protective of this character early on, like I'm not only rooting for you, but I want to make sure you're okay. And then jump ahead to for me in the tree with Luke in Last Jedi, just kind of saying I need to find my place in all this, and I need someone to help me. And there's, I think Luke is appropriately grumpy, and I understand his journey. It's a whole thing, but her in that moment, I think some days he's best acting. And then I go to Rise of Skywalker. One of our favorite moments we've broken down before, Joseph. I know, her putting that lightsaber behind her head and knowing and having that connection with Kylo, now Ben. And it's around the time of, Ben has that great look of, and have not only that connection, but that trust to let go of the blade, as you once pointed out so beautifully, Joseph, that they spent 3 films fighting over. And to let go of that blade and know that I have this connection, I've had this trust, and my journey has led me to these type of points. I also love her saying, you want me to hate and I won't hate, and this big melodramatic final stand against Palpatine, which I know maybe doesn't work for a lot of folks. Totally get it. But for me, those are the 3 moments that just kind of build on this character, and I'm always rooting for her. I've been rooting for her since 2015, and I'm looking forward to continue that cheering.
Yeah. Well said. Moving on here for another chunk of the interview. The interviewer asks, did you ever wonder yourself what happened to Rey, what happened to her after the Rise of Skywalker? And Daisy Ridley says, I didn't care until I was asked. I felt like the story had wrapped up really nicely, so Rey's return had to be worthwhile, and I think it is. I'm also in a very different position. I was 21 when I did the first one. I'm 32 now, and so I have a lot more experience on set. It's very exciting to imagine how my current life will affect the character. So, Jennifer, How do you feel about that contrast between the actor and the fandom? I think, sometimes the fandom can sometimes get prickly about saying things like, I didn't imagine what the character was up to. But I think it's valuable to think about actors and fans have different experience of media. Do you think it's natural that actors have a different perspective?
I think it's very smart on her part. I think it's not like a film, like a prestige film, right? Or like a Kate Blanchett film where she's going to have it mapped out of not only the backstory, but where the character would be now, where the character's future. You see that a lot of times with actors, if they already know where their character would be 10 years from now. But for an actor that's in a fandom film, there's so many other moving parts, specifically canon, right? I would be troubled if she's like, oh, I know exactly where she is and what she's doing, because as we know, there are so many other storytellers that are going to be coming in. It's like they're creating this picture that's constantly evolving, right? So she's just going to be like, it's really quite zen to just be like, I don't know where she is and what she's doing, but we're gonna find out, and I'm gonna embrace what they give me and just go with it, right? Yeah. I think it's just a different type of acting when you're acting in these types of films.
Ken, how do you feel about the difference in an actor's perspective versus the way fans might think about the movie and imagine a lot where Ray ended up?
Yeah, it's almost hilarious. You could take it a cynical, mocking way. I'm thinking of Shatner in the SNL sketch in '86 again, something we reference here often. Happy 50th anniversary Saturday Night Live. But I like this. It makes sense. I don't want to say this is exactly what you're saying, Jen, but sometimes, when an actor's like, oh, I have a story, like you need that for your motivation, you need that for your process. But I don't need to hear all of Mark Hamill's theories on where Luke was for the last 30 years.
Right.
He's got some weird ones. So,
right.
He's got some ideas that I don't agree with. And he always has, by the way. And as he should. He knows the character. I don't want to say that to dismiss his opinions on it. But I like what I'm getting from here is her kind of going, I've never thought about it. What do you got? And creators come in going, hey, what about this? And her going, yeah, okay. I like that, and she's naturally going to connect to it differently because she is 32. She is married now. She's gone through this big roller coaster ride. She kind of, cocooned for a little bit. Then she emerges and playing, wonderful array of characters. Even her recent photo shoot would turn heads and broke the internet. Like she did that with full confidence, and for her to now take that into the story of Ray and just kind of hearing it, and it's not always going to be easy. Alarms sounding for me mentioning Game of Thrones season 8, but Emilia Clarke has talked about finding out, not necessarily loving the final decisions of the character, but taking a tearful walk and going, I can do this. How do I do this? How do I find out? How do I deliver on this? I think Mark Hamill went through that. The Director in the Jedi doc is about that, and it's often forgotten because the headlines don't account for him going, I philosophically disagree with this because I got years of what I think Luke would do, but I've got to deliver it as an actor, as it's your job. You're gonna have sayings in it. We know every actor, and Harrison and Carrie Fisher, and I know, and I Love You, I know has a lot of that vibe too, but overall, I like that she's open to this process to take this character. I like to bring it home. I like that she's like, I hadn't thought about it. I thought we ended it. I liked it, but now I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I think for me, there's just like everything you're both saying makes a ton of sense, but there's also just like, for me, it helps to celebrate what's good about being a fan. Like the value of a fantasy world for me as a fan is to daydream. When a story ends, like all three of the Star Wars trilogies end with the characters, kind of coming of age and being fully formed. Luke as a Jedi looking to the future, Anakin as Vader, and Rey as, the new Jedi of the next era. They all end with them sort of looking to their horizon of, I am fully formed, what's next? And as a fan, a delightful part of it is I'm taking a shower or going for a walk, I get to daydream. And that's a part of the reason that I love an open-ended story like Star Wars is to daydream. But if I were an actor playing those roles, I would be laser focused on how do I deliver the story? How do I get them to that point where they're staring off into the sunset? And when I get to that moment, I achieved my goal, which I just think it's just such a different perspective. And I think bringing up Mark Hamill is great, Ken, because I think the actors who are themselves a little bit more fans, we hear about them daydreaming a little bit more. I think if Mark Hamill hadn't ended up playing Luke, I think we would probably be like, do you know the actor of Joker has some daydreams about Luke Skywalker should be up to? Because he's a fan. It is both from I was Luke Skywalker, but also I think he is a fan, and that's a natural thing for fans to do, is to daydream.
Yeah. No, it's part of the fun. I mean, I always said, I think we all had from 83 on, we all had our scripts in our heads of episode 7 and what it should be. That helped with the expectations, help raise the expectations.
Yeah. Ken, you touched on this, but an important part of this is her talking about how this is very different when she's 32. Ken, are there things you see differently because of age? Like revisiting a movie and you see it in a new light, or coming back to a creative pursuit or a hobby? How do things change with time and age for you?
Yeah, you and I both did a lot of aging material recently at your birthday show, talking about how things are, perspective is different. You've got an absolute genius bit. I hope the world sees more of. Your good age, your story, her maturity, her calmness, again, I keep saying the word confidence, but also, Jen, you talked about it with like producing and everything. I'm absolutely sure she'll have like an EP credit or producer credit, because she's going to have a different point of view. She isn't the 21-year-old, oh my God, I got the audition booking of a lifetime. That journey has now been 11 years on, 12 years on, and she's going to have a different perspective. And I value an artist bringing a different perspective. And as far as me and you can come back to things differently. I have returned to a rabid sports fan life where I had left it, and now I have a different perspective. And I know, I don't need to paint my face like a dolphin today. I think I can just watch the game. I don't need to prove anything. I can just be myself in this. And there's some of that going on with me in Star Wars. Right? Jen, the words you said recently, Star Wars not going away, was great comfort to me, because I felt sometimes, not in terms of it consuming and loving and diving in deep to this stuff, but just I felt like I have to live in every corner of Star Wars right now, because it was, it was gone before. Now I know that's not true, and I'm having a different enjoyment out of being a Star Wars fan now. So for all that, I'm intrigued for her to be like, let's step forward, because I stepped forward, and what can I bring to the role?
I think the main thing that people are going to take away from this podcast episode is wanting you to paint your face like a dolphin for the gram, Ken. Unleashed a beast.
I'll tell you, I can't do it. I'll find the picture of me in high school, in a high school yearbook picture, dressed head to toe in early 90s Miami Dolphin gear, including the Zubaz pants, which are the zebra print pants, teal, aqua, and white. And I would wear that in public. Wear that in public to be seen. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things that where your perspective changes and it comes at you as a surprise. I think for me, many examples, but just performing comedy. I remember when it started to be like, this feels different. Why? And like, because when I started, I needed the laugh, I needed the attention deeply, as a form of dealing with not great stuff growing up. And now it's sort of like, I definitely want to get a laugh. It still feels good. And it's the promise I make to an audience, but I don't need it in that same deep and desperate way. And it changed my relationship with it. And I realized like, my interest hasn't faded. It's just different. And I have that experience with movies too, of like, I see a movie that I haven't seen in 20 years that I thought was great. And like, I see this in an entirely different light, or the opposite way. I never saw the movie Dark City when it came out, because it was kind of a sleeper hit. People have been talking about it for years, and I finally watched it. And no criticism of the film in particular, but it was this incredibly weird experience of like, I enjoyed that film. 1998 me would have loved this film. But my perception has changed. It's a film that it was brave and new in 1998, but I didn't get to see it when it was brave and new. And now it's just like, it's so important, I think, to think about how time changes things for us. Jennifer, how about yourself?
I think it's what I'm realizing is that trying to make your livelihood from your hobbies is really freaking hard. And I think I was sold this when I was younger, where it's like, you got to be all in. You got to really be the starving artist. You got to just do it, right? And it's like, well, yeah, okay, you can do that, right? Or you can also like have a job, some sort of stable income. You don't have to, you can still be that artist. You can still be the actor. You can be the painter. You don't have to do that for your living to be that. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you quite frankly, you have more money to be able to pay for your art supplies and things like that. And so, yeah, it's harder because you have to manage your time more. But I was sold this idea, well, if you're not doing this 100%, then you are not that. And it's like, well, why not? I could teach acting classes on the weekends. I can do plays for fun. Like, you know what I mean? I can make my own videos. My whole life doesn't have to revolve around that. And so I think that I now see that as I'm older, where I'm like, you can just enjoy life. Just be. I don't have to rely on other people telling me or giving me the jobs or, whatever. I can do it myself.
Right, or dictating the titles of a real writer does X is a very
exactly
popular engagement farming thing on
Threads
social
has
media.
Got a lot of those. Do you need to read them, Joseph? Go to Threads.
No,
They're
I deeply don't. Did you write something? You're a writer. All right,
you're
great.
a writer.
If you're applying to a convention that only takes professional writers with these credentials, that's a different thing. In your soul, you get to decide, which I think is what you're saying, Jennifer, which I think is a real sign of strength and maturity to just say, I define what I am.
Yes. And you don't need to pay people money, because that's another thing I've learned is that people, like teachers, will try and be like, you need to do this and you need to pay me money in order to be, a writer or an actor, to find success. It's like, really? You just want me to enroll in your class.
Wouldn't that be awful if that's what this film is about? Is Raised on Hard Times, and she's just running a total Jedi scam of like, you can't really use the Force unless you take my master class, my Jedi master class.
I love this. Years ago, my old writing partner and I, Matt Key, had a script, and someone asked for a meeting. It was one of those like, oh my God, we're like 13th floor CAA type of meeting in Beverly Hills. So exciting, so nervous. My life was going to be made. We get up there and look, hey, the script probably had some work to do, but it was a good concept. At the end of towards the end of the meeting, the agent we're meeting with goes, guys, I think this is pretty good, but I got to tell you what, I teach a screenwriting class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I think you guys are a perfect candidate for it. And I just remember, this is no. Just tell me yes or no. Give me some notes. I'm not joining your class.
Perfect candidate to give me money. Yeah.
If which the movie begins and Ray's like, you got some Force sensibility. Tell you what, let me give you my number. Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh my gosh. Then you can take our business class.
Yeah, take our business. Yeah. And you're going to need to market yourself as a Jedi. So I'll tell you what, we got a marketing class on Friday.
Yeah. No. You have to pay your own way to Ilum. Starkiller based now. Like Starkiller Sun, I guess.
We don't cover costs. Yeah.
We don't cover costs. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back to discuss the rest of this great idea for the new Jedi Order movie where Rey just soaks young Jedi. Back in a moment. And we have returned to continue this great interview with Daisy Ridley. She reflects on the changes in her life from fame. This is kind of continuing what we're talking about of the difference of doing The Force Awakens when she was very young to her adult life now. The interviewer says, do you think it's going to be easier than it was back then to handle the attention that comes with a role like that? And Daisy Ridley says, what was overwhelming for me was that the day Star Wars 7 premiered, people didn't think Rey was going to be a big character. I remember my mom saying, they must have thought you were good because they spent a lot of money on this movie. A lot. Daisy Ridley continues, it's very strange to go from being photographed on the red carpet to watching the movie and then just going to the bathroom and having people say, oh my God, that's you. Suddenly I was recognized in public life outside of my job. That's not necessarily easy to take in. Also, I had never traveled. Here I was all over the world, and I had unusual interactions with people. For example, I didn't know what a press junket was. I was discovering everything, and then time passes and things calm down. I have some perspective on all of this now. I know how it works, so it will definitely be easier to manage. So, Ken, how would your mother react to you being famous?
I know this to a degree. I'm not famous, but the three of us have done things enough to where we have people that enjoy our work, and so she's witnessed some of that, and it's very sweet in one sense of the word. She gets very proud, but also there was one particular time I needed her to do work. I was selling books at a convention type of thing, and I said, "Hey, I need you to handle this and that," and she just left and then just took photos from afar, and I didn't sell any books.
Oh,
It's
no.
like, the reason I came here is to sell books so I can eat. You bailed. Oh, I was just so proud of you. I was taking pictures. I was talking to some of your friends about you. Great. This is my life. A week ago, I was in Chicago, and we were at a Star Wars trivia in front of 1,000 people. This was Celebration 19. It was around that time. And I was like, I need you to be here for me. So that's how my mom would feel. To this degree, my brain.
Yeah. My mother would focus on some bizarre detail that I cannot possibly guess. I love Daisy Ridley's mother saying they must have thought you were good because they spent a lot of money on this. Like, they were just going to totally cheap out on Star Wars Episode 7. They're like, but Daisy's good, so let's put some more money into this. It's such a great parent thing. So I think my mom would probably have something like that where it's just a focus on only interested in craft services and nothing else. When my brother and I had just started doing theater and we're getting, we would show up in the local paper, and that was, a big deal for us at the time. And we watched some movie about Elvis, some made-for-TV movie about Elvis, where he buys his mom a Cadillac. And I've had the joke with my mom ever since of like, if I ever get very rich, I'm buying you a Cadillac. And she's like, well, I might like something else. Like, too bad it's going to be a Cadillac. You can drive it or not. So, Jen, how about you? How would your mother react to you being famous?
She'd be very proud. My mom has recorded all my commercials. She's taken all the magazine clippings that I've had, or print work that I've done. I was in a Wells Fargo ad. It's like those big, things that they have behind the teller or whatever, of me and my husband cooking a meal together. We went to the bank and she took it. And it's in my room at my mom's house. But it's so awkward because obviously I have a real husband. Like, what are we going to do with this? It's like, but at the same time, she also gives me notes, So she'll be like, oh, I like how you did. You maybe should have tilted your head more like this. I'm like, and then I start beating myself up. I'm like, oh, you're right. I should have done that. So my mom would be like, you were great in The Force Awakens. Maybe you should have pet the droid this way, and drive me crazy.
I'm sorry to hear about that part of it, but I am delighted after the number of predatory things Wells Fargo has done to hear about your mom stealing from Wells Fargo rather than the other way around.
They gave it to us because she was like,
okay. I thought she was like put it under a trench coat that didn't fit kind of thing. No. She asked him for it. It was so awkward. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And I reenacted the pose. Oh well. And your fake husband's mom lost out.
God.
Yeah.
So awkward.
Anyway, enough about our mothers. Let's get back to Star Wars. So Daisy Ridley has a lot of great thoughts about being thrust into the spot like that. Ken, do you have other reactions to what she's describing? That sensation of I saw the movie, and then after the movie came out, I couldn't go to the bathroom without having conversations.
Yeah, I think it's a appropriate conversation for a lot of stuff that you're seeing going on out there right now, especially around Chapel Roan, as her fame is exploding in a meteoric fashion. 9 months removed from kind of this big launching she's been around for years, but it's rapid, and she's said some wonderful things out there. I also think she hasn't said everything perfect. I don't disagree with anything she said. She's also of this generation that's used to sitting down in front of a selfie camera and saying things, and it's going to be maybe some of the points are going to get lost in the awkwardness of some of the stuff she said. But everything should not be ignored, and there's something, and I'm not the perfect one to speak on women in media and what they faced over generations. I mean, have you ever heard the story of Marilyn Monroe, about what's gone on, how we cheered the destruction of Britney Spears in the early 2000s and all these kind of things that have gone on. It's one of the things my fandom of Lady Gaga revolves a lot around going from that's the woman in the meat dress to understanding her purpose behind that. Of if you're going to treat me like meat, I'm going to have some kind of control over my narrative as best I can. And I think you're seeing this important conversation around this stuff, and that doesn't discount our connection. I stood within 4 feet of Daisy Ridley once at a premiere, and it's like you want to say something. You want to be like, I love what you're doing, and so I get that because I have those moments. I get an hour later, my biggest regret in my life is not saying something to Frank Oz, right? Like so I understand it, but I think I think she could have been crushed and was in some ways crushed by the fandom. You know, she had to pull off social media. She did kind of submerge for a little bit after the franchise kind of wrapped, and I'd love to see her out here now. Like I keep saying the word confidence. It's an important conversation to have. I don't have all the answers. I definitely don't have all the answers, but I think she's going to be more prepared this time around. Because how can you be prepared? How can you be prepared when your life changes on a dime? It does. I had a friend get cast at Saturday Night Live in 2005. Within 24 hours, she had to change her number, hide her address, and life changed. I haven't spoken to her since then. It's Kristen Wiig. It's like it just happens so fast because of the celebrity culture. So I'm excited. Part of it too is just a different Daisy involved in this process.
Yeah, it's age, but it's also experience. Jennifer, any other thoughts on what she's talking about, that sudden explosion of fame?
I think it's very difficult for any person, whether you're a child or an adult, to get that amount of fame suddenly overnight, because inevitably what happens is it goes away typically. Or if it doesn't, then you're still I don't think you're trying to continue working, and hopefully people still find you profitable and bankable, and they're not trying to now cast the younger version of you, which I've heard often happens. It really messes people up. I mean, that's why you see so many child actors who are unfortunately, having a difficult time now. It's a business. It's ruthless. People do treat you like meat. They treat you like a product. So she must have a great family, good people around her, and she has a good sense of self to be able to handle this and to be able to tune out the noise, which is what we're going to talk about. But it is not. I mean, everyone, even people like at the top, are still fighting to keep their place at the top. And you're only as good as your last movie, right, or your last hit. So, it is really not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest thing, is just having empathy. And I know when you're struggling, it's can sometimes be a hard ask to have empathy for that person who's doing their dream job, who you maybe look up to, who's on magazine covers and getting paid to dress up weird for fun. It can be a hard ask to have empathy for them. And I think I see that sometimes where people feel like, well, if Hollywood has touched it, then you can say whatever you want because look, they're so powerful. How could any little thing I say be hurtful to them? But I just think, there are all the advantages of being rich and famous and having power. And maybe because of that, you have more freedom or elbow room, or, don't have to fight to just get food on the table. All those things are true, but it is also just an incredible pressure cooker, like you're describing, Jennifer, of how to keep it. But also just like, I love that her example is going to the bathroom, because that's part of like this whole exercise of like people are becoming larger than life. But of course, we are all people, and we all just need basic things like privacy, bathroom, and like you're never going to build somebody up that so much they're not human. And having empathy for the human that is doing all of this work behind creating the entertainment, I think is so important. That feeling of I need to keep the numbers up. I need to be watched. I need to have people like me in order to keep doing the dream I have. But then at the same time, to also have a little bit of a private self is that, as I've said many times, I do not live anywhere fancy. I pay in horrible amount of money for a tiny 1-bedroom apartment that is overflowing with action figures. But I live at the base of the Hollywood Hills, so I see, known people. And one of the most amazing sightings I ever had was Mark Ruffalo was just rocking along with a friend, and he's such a phenomenal actor. Mark Ruffalo looked at me in a way that, in a gesture, just said, "I know I'm Mark Ruffalo, but please, for the love of God, do not speak to the Mark Ruffalo that exists in your imagination." It was a smile, and there was kindness and sadness in his eyes, and it was just like, that's some of the best. It wasn't acting. It was some of the best human communication I've ever seen. You're just like, I know I'm Mark Ruffalo. I know I'm Mark Ruffalo. Please, just let me be Guy Walking. And
I had that with Allison Brie once at the Ralph's on Ventura and Vineland, and she was checking out self-checkout, and we made eye contact, and it's time, love community, eventually love for working club. But it was just one of those like, oh, but I'm not a say, but we ended up walking to our cars, and right as she was getting to her car, she just kind of looked at me like, yes, and thank you, and don't.
Oh my gosh. I had that too with Eva Longoria. It's a thing that celebrities must have. That look. I was in the bathroom and I saw her at Chateau Marmont. So of course you might see celebrities there. And I was like, she's so pretty. And then I like made that look where I was like, it's Eva Longoria. Oh, I was just excited. So and she looked at me like, yes, I know. I know you know who I am. Please, I'm trying to wash my hands. Leave me alone. But she did it all with a smile, very pleasant, And I was like, gosh, she's gorgeous. How much smaller than I imagined.
They all are.
They're all human. Going on to the last bit of the interview with discussing Daisy Ridley's light side attitude. The interviewer says, the way some fans have received Rey has been very violent. Did you feel that? Again, I translated this from the French, so maybe that's exactly what they said, or maybe there's a little bit of a miscommunication there. Daisy Ridley responds to that question, no. I know that some people have expressed themselves negatively, but I don't pay attention to it because it doesn't really concern me. I can't change the way some men see women. Unfortunately, that's how society works. And then overall, I've been very well received. I've made the choice to focus on the positive. So, Jennifer, how do you feel about that approach and attitude toward the toxic element of fandom?
I really believe her. I really, really believe her. I would say that you have to be kind of delusional to survive in the industry, but I don't think it's delusion in her case. I think it's her choosing to just focus on the positive, again, very Zen-like, and being able just to tune out the noise. Ken, you mentioned Chapel Roan, and I just see someone there who is just so sensitive and taking everything in, both good and bad, to their detriment. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I can't, because they always say like, oh, don't love the praise, because then you're also going to love, you know what I mean? Like you should just not listen to anything. But I feel like that's so unnatural. But here, Daisy Ridley is able to do that. And I think that's why she's got a good head on her shoulders. God bless her, because that is really difficult to do.
Yeah. I mean, I really love the way that she talks about it. I know, with the various conversations with Acolyte, I think we've all been making a real effort to distinguish between good faith, this show or this character doesn't land for me, and bad faith, where there's something much more attached to it. And I like that she's just looking at the response to Rey that's clearly bad faith, I think is what she's talking about, because I'm sure there's just good faith people. The character didn't land for me. I didn't like the choice they made in Rise of Skywalker. Great. We're not talking about you. What she's talking about is Rey is a part of a larger conversation that's going on of the way that people react to any change, where everything isn't the exact same type of person as the star. And I like that she's like, yes, that the character that I played in the franchise that I played is a part of this much larger conversation. I can only do so much to change that conversation. So I acknowledge that conversation, that discourse, those opinions are real, but why do I have to let that define me? Why wallow in it? it's I love that this answer is so big picture in not getting into the weeds of the character of Rey, because it's not an answer about good faith up down on the character, up down on the movies. It's about this much larger picture. It's just say I can't control any of that. So a lot of people love Rey, and a lot of people think I did a great job. So I'm going to focus on that. That is so not. I only take praise.
Yeah.
It is a strong choice to go. I'm going to focus on the positive and move forward with it. So great, Ken. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's you said it. She's not going to the weeds, and it's hard for us to we can't really go into the weeds on it. It's the time where maybe because of just the onslaught of social media and the way it's been and grown in the last 10 to 15 years, like maybe you can't ignore it. Maybe you should fight it more directly. I sometimes don't know what that gets. I think she's got people around her that are good, and I think that's key as well. She seems to live every interview, especially there was a period of time when right after Rise, and again, she kind of, I'm not saying when I say submerged, she's kind of, took her time. She finished a big journey in life and kind of went and enjoyed life. And a lot of interviews, just she seems happy. She seems surrounded by good folks, and I think that's a key as well. And that's a lot of times you see some of the destructions that happen is because folks are the hangers on and the bangers on. These are the people that see an opportunity, and it gets harder and harder and harder. The circles get smaller, and that can be destructive. So she's. I love this. It's what's right for her. It's tough out there, as we know. And I don't have the answers. I don't have how to figure it out and how to fight it and how to destroy it and how to just push past the narratives. I like what you're saying. This is how it works, unfortunately. And for me, it's nothing new. This is the way. This has been going for a long time. About society being broken on how they deal with change, how they deal with groups that are othered and that they want to keep othered and keep smaller. So I think when you're faced with that tidal wave, this approach works for someone who has this career and this position. And her showing up at Star Wars Celebration London was beautiful, and I'm sure that was a reward. And she should focus on that as best she can. I'm sure she has those days. I'm sure she had those days, like all those performers in Star Wars who have faced scorn and hate and racist attacks and sexist attacks. I'm sure they have those days. But at the end of the day, you find a way to push through and just be you and do your art. And I think she's doing that.
Well said. So my final question for you both is, what are hopes for this film? When will we learn more about Rey and the New Jedi Order? Is it safe that the film will come out eventually, which is a difficult and scary question. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
I hope it's going to be good. I hope that they actually make it. I think she's an important hero to see their journey continue. I really want to introduce my kids to her and have them experience her on the big screen. My daughter, my eldest, she was looking up something for girls. And she's like, why is the internet keep telling me that girls only like pink and unicorns? She's like, I don't like those things. And I was like, oh, you would love Rey because Rey is not pink and unicorns, right? And she wears pants. And it sounds silly, but she has pockets, right? Like those things are important to have represented. Right?
Girls like pockets and yellow lightsabers, right? Girls can like anything.
Yes, and she's a badass, but she's also, like I said, vulnerable. And I want my kids to see that. I think it's so important. For them to connect to Star Wars in that way. I think it could be a really, really great thing for me as a Star Wars parent to be able to be like, yes, this is what I wanted you to love about Star Wars. But we'll see. I just hope it gets made, because right now I don't know. know.
Yeah. Ken, how are you feeling? What are your hopes for the film? Do you have faith that it's coming, even if it's 2032? This film is coming out.
I'll say, and I understand where you're coming from, Jen, because I think I have that, and I think I have to push past that. It's not even about Star Wars; it's the state of the industry that I think puts a lot of things in doubt. Absolutely puts a lot of things in doubt. But I'll tell you, I think it's going to get made. I think it's going to happen, and I have is it blind faith? Great. That's sometimes all you need in life. In terms of what we learn from it, and when will we learn more? I think if it's going to happen soon, we'll start learning more in terms of of castings and all those kind of things. And I'm excited to get back to that. My love of Star Wars has been not challenged, but it's been different as I've addressed here on the show recently. And since coming out of the strike, I've had a different phase of just somewhat exhausted of the cycles of being a Star Wars fan that we all deal with online, and the news and the rumors and this and the hate and the campaigns. And I get a little exhausted by that. I am excited to just go, oh my gosh, they cast so-and-so, like a little with the Mandalorian Grogu, like Sigourney Weaver, great, okay, cool. I love those little bumps of excitement, but this will be important. I keep going back. One of the things I really want to get from this film and why I hope it gets made, and I'm choosing to believe, is kind of what we're talking about here. We have a chance in this big, giant franchise to take someone who went on a hero's journey and then find out what happens after they become a hero in almost real time, where we just didn't have the chance with Han, Luke, and Leia because of realities. Because George himself said, you know what I don't want to do right now? Star Wars. And then when he decided to do it, he goes, I want to do something different. Always, if 1993, Episode 7 had happened, it would be different because it could be different. By the time Episode 7 did happen, I think they made the right decisions in an overall sense about how we approach this franchise 30 years on. But now, 10 years later from the start of her journey, Jen, your daughter will have a more complete picture and get to experience it in more real time once she catches up, because I'm sure you'll sit her down in front of a VHS tape of Force Awakens. I'm excited about that. That's what I want.
Yeah, the VHS tapes are getting retro popular, so maybe I purposefully pan and scan Force Awakens, the VHS.
Just Pan's doing carte plot. That's mine.
That one's garbage. It's not fully on screen. Yeah, I really have a lot of desire and hope and faith that this film will come out. I think something seismic would have to happen to Disney, Lucasfilm, for it to change. I think, they've made a big thing of announcing those 3 movies, and I think Filoni's is going to be maybe that's going to end up on Disney Plus, but I think that story needs to be resolved since they've started it. I think the Mangold film seems really interesting, but I don't know about that. This is such a rare and specific opportunity at the moment, like you were saying, Ken, to take this hero who lives in a mythical fantasy world, but has wrestled with that in a very kind of real and relatable way, to take them to that next step of like, I'm poised, I'm confident, I know who I am as a Jedi. Now I have to help all these other people become a Jedi, and now I have to deal with the galaxy that maybe doesn't want Jedi. Those are adult challenges. Those are totally, you graduated from college and you bought your first house, and now, damn, the challenges continue. It's such a rare opportunity. And also, I just feel like if Sharmeen Obed-Chinoy stays attached, if the ways that she's talked about this film continue to be what this film is developed as, I think it's really vital for Star Wars, because Sharmeen Obed-Chinoy has described it as Rey is leading a new generation of Jedi out into the galaxy to help and defend people who need help and defense. And there are people who don't like that and don't want it to happen. That is such to me, an important way to show the Jedi and to show Rey as somebody who is, I get to decide what we do next, and we're doing things the right way. And there are people, she wants to help move the galaxy forward, and there are people who are like, but what if we keep taking advantage of people who are powerless? And the story of somebody powerful coming in to help people who need help, I think is, I understand why Star Wars has diverged from that and challenged that and looked at it in different ways. But to see Rey lead an institution that is truly functioning to help people, I think it's a good, in this general time frame, moment for that, and I hope to see it.
Would be good. I think we will.
Yeah. All right, Ken, we are going to talk more, actually, about this film when our Q's episode drops, because our first Q is related to this film. So there'll be even more great discussion of Rey in the new Jedi Order. But for now, we're going to wrap this one up. Ken, you want to take us home?
Absolutely. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Like I said, we're on Blue Sky and Threads, Instagram as well. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We are available as a podcast in a lot of spots. Just search, you'll find us there. That includes TuneIn, Google Play. I think, well, that may have changed. Just search. Wherever it says podcast, just search. And if we're there, you'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter or down below if you're watching on YouTube on our Fourth Wall Shop. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly. You can follow me at Ken Napzok or go to my website, kennapzok.com. My radio show, Pop Rockin' Radio, is live on Saturday, Sunday nights, midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific, and you can listen to that on TuneIn or Radio Box or any of those radio streaming apps. I'm on Hall of Fame Music Radio. Jen, where can they find you?
That's great. You can find me on all the social media sites at Jennifer Landa or TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go, Joseph. Welcome back. Good to have you here. Take us home.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the social media at Joseph Scrimshaw. You can visit my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for links to all the stuff I'm up to. I have this fiscal sponsorship for this film I'm trying to make. The film is called Dead Media, and this means that the fiscal sponsorship, that you can make a one-time tax-deductible donation of any amount by clicking the link. All that information is on my website. I have another ask that relates to what we've been talking about. I don't know how many people know about the IMDb star meter. If you pay for IMDb Pro, you can get into the back end and you can see, how to contact people in more details about their credits and all that. But people have star meters that go up and down every week. And I have been discovering, to a painful and shocking amount, the financial value behind star meters that agents are making. It's like, well, my client's star meter is this, so you have to pay them this amount of money. Yes. And I was like, what mysterious algorithm generates this all-powerful star meter? Come to find out, it's just how many people have looked at your page. So my ask is, while I am trying to make things happen for this film, it would help if my star meter was higher. So if anybody listening to this right now is on a computer, all you have to do is just look up IMDb, Joseph Scrimshaw, look at my page and go, yeah, and that's it, and leave. Yep. And my star meter will jump up by like 200,000 if people look. It's so weird. It is so deeply weird. Jennifer, do you have any I know we're trying to wrap up, but
no, I was so tied to the star meter. I was so tied, and I would see my star meter. I'd check every week, and I'd get there. I'd get so much closer, and I'd be like, so and so went in for that role. They're that much higher. But now my star meter has dropped, and I don't even look anymore. So
yeah, it's a silly thing.
Frustrating.
It's a silly thing, but many of the decisions that get made in life are based on silly things. So if anybody wants to look at my IMDb page, that would help me out. Anyway, that is it. Thank you for listening. The news has broken, and perhaps we have been broken by the news. That is it.